It is 6:08 here on Breakfast Television. Of course, we are remembering the anniversary 1 year ago today. 10 people were killed and 16 others injured in the Yonge Street tragedy up on Yonge between Shepherd and Finch. And Mel, you and I, we were up there. We were two of the first reporters, I believe, up there.
We were.
And yesterday we had a chance. We went up there just to walk through the area again and just kind of relive the experience. I don't know if that's the word, but just a reminder of such an intense day that was and a difficult day.
And outside of what you see on your screens of what it really felt like responding to it and the aftermath as well. So have a look.
It's hard to believe it was a year ago. This is just about where I arrived on the scene. I came out of one of the side streets and I couldn't believe it. You saw one scene, I thought that was it, and then I looked up towards Finch and back down towards Shepherd, and everywhere there was yellow tape. And I realized after walking along for a little bit, wherever you saw a fire truck, they were there because that's where a body was, and it left me stunned at that point.
And I think the thing is, you know, considering how big of this scene this is, we didn't even understand.
No,
we didn't understand how to process it, right?
No.
Because you look at your phone, you're getting emails from our newsroom saying a car on the curb, more ambulance, multiple casualties, and it wasn't until you got here that you really understood how big this was.
Yeah, initially we thought maybe it was just a car accident, a bad accident. But when we arrived here, it was unbelievable. This is where it all started. A van southbound coming down here and onto the sidewalk where it hit several people. You were on your way home and you ended up at the scene where the arrest was made, which was just down this way.
All the way down here, actually just past Shepherd. I was on my way home on the subway and I heard this announcement, some sort of security incident. Everyone's got to get off at Shepherd. This is my neighborhood anyway.
Of course. I mean, what were you thinking then?
I didn't even know what to think, honestly. I just started running and running and running, and I ran to this area right here. And this, all I saw, they were just starting to put the tape up, and I saw a white van that had crashed right here, and no one knew what was to make of it.
No.
And I had no idea. And honestly, I just started shaking a little bit, and a bunch of my neighbors were coming out on the street saying, what's going on? I checked my other phone, and people who know I live in the area, message after message saying, are you okay? Is your son okay? Because these are the streets that we walk every single day, and I really didn't know what to do with all of it.
No, and I think it really drove home. I mean, we covered so many stories, but this one, I think, really had one of the biggest impacts on me because of the scale of it.
Yeah.
But also, it was over so quickly. 10 innocent lives were taken. It left me really shaken, more so than I think any other story I've ever covered.
Yeah, and I remember leaving this. I did a Facebook Live for maybe 45 minutes, not even really having all the information, just whatever we saw. I am standing here, and I'm just going to show you the scene. This is at Yonge, just south of Shepherd. And I walked not far from here. I went home, and I just broke down. I broke down. I hugged my son. I hugged my husband who came home early, because you're sort of in a bit of an adrenaline rush as it's happening because you don't know how to process. And once you step away from it, it really affected me.
And it affected many reporters. I know we're not supposed to be affected by this, but it was impossible not for that. I was out Thursday night and I spoke to some people, other reporters, and many of them say they're not the same since that day last year, and having to report on it and try and process it. And at times it was great because Rogers they did offer a chance to go talk to some counseling, and I felt all right. But at times it's easy to lock this away and think, oh, it's just another day at work, but it's not. And you have to process these things. And we'll be talking to Bonnie Levine from Victim Services about people still wanting to deal with it, because some people may not have been ready to face it yet, what has happened.
And this is the first time, and you've been a reporter for how long?
30 years.
And this was the time that you said, I need to step back.
Yeah, I've never been that devastated by anything. Just walking down that street just left me completely... I actually did tear up. I was crying at times walking down the street. I was actually crying walking down the street when you were seeing that scene unfold, and it really left me shaken, that one.
I remember 680 called me that day and said, can you do a hit for us, because you're there, we know you're there. And that whole interview was a blur. I don't even know what I said. You just kind of feel numb to it. So I can't even imagine the first responders, the families. Again, we were talking about, there are a lot of people affected today, and not just today. It has changed our city, so we are going to continue our coverage, and many angles too. We're talking security. We're talking if you need to speak to some Victim Services.
We'll have the mayor and the chief in, Bonnie Levine from Victim Services. Even though it is a year and maybe you think you have dealt with it, this may be a chance to talk a little bit more about it.
Absolutely.
And try and deal with it. Well, more on BT coming up after the break.